The Democratic race is tight in Wisconsin ahead of Tuesday's primary there, but the candidates are now focusing their attention on New York. Bernie Sanders, in fact, told thousands of people in the Bronx last night that he can win the November election if he wins the New York primary later this month. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton at her rally in the state slammed Sanders after she was asked about taking contributions from the energy industry.
Will you act on your words and reject fossil fuel money in the future in your campaign?
I do not. I have money from people who work for fossil fuel companies. I am so sick. I am so sick of the Sanders campaign lying about me. I'm sick of it.
To discuss that and a lot more, Vermont Senator and presidential candidate Bernie Sanders. Good enough to join us this morning. Pleasure to have you. I know you've seen that clip by now. Again, the Clinton campaign saying that you lie or at least exaggerate about her contributions coming from the fossil fuel lobby. Your response?
According to a Greenpeace analysis of campaign finance reports, Hillary Clinton's campaign has received $4.5 million from the fossil fuel industry. She has received contributions from over 50 lobbyists of the gas and oil industry. If that's not receiving money from the fossil fuel industry, I don't know what is.
Now, she'll argue that she's only taken money from workers of these corporations, not the corporations themselves.
Workers, paid lobbyists of the industry. This is not some guy who's drilling an oil well. That's one thing. These are paid lobbyists. That's how candidates raise money.
She's also said that she will, as president, look to wean America off of fossil fuels.
But it's not a question of weaning America off of fossil fuels. I am a member of the Environmental Committee. I've talked to scientists all over the world. We are facing a global crisis in terms of climate change, which is real, which is caused by human activity, which is already doing devastating harm. It's not a question of weaning. We need a dramatic transformation of our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And we do have to stand up to the fossil fuel industry, whose short-term profits are not more important than the future of this planet.
Which you are saying Secretary Clinton will or has not done. But I guess the question is, can you draw a line between the accepting of these contributions and how it has impacted specific policy positions?
Well, what you can say is that it is not, if you take substantial sums of money, we're talking about millions of dollars, from paid lobbyists of the industry, are you going to be inclined to be as aggressive as you should be? Look, Hillary Clinton is not some Republican who thinks climate change is a hoax. She understands the reality. What I am saying is we have got to dramatically transform our energy system if we're going to leave our kids and our grandchildren a planet that is healthy and habitable. So all I can tell you is I have introduced the most comprehensive climate change legislation in the history of the United States Senate.
Her statements, to a degree, echo some made by a former congressional colleague of yours, former Massachusetts Congressman Barney Frank. He had some harsh words for you in a recent interview he gave to Slate. He said that despite 25 years in the Senate, you have little to show for it in terms of record. He also said that you get a pass from the media. In terms, then, first of scrutinizing your record, does his critique surprise you?
Look, Barney Frank is working very hard as part of Hillary Clinton's campaign. He's a very strong supporter of Hillary Clinton, and he says what he will say. You want to hear my record? My record is that 3 years ago, working with people like John McCain, we passed the strongest veterans health care legislation in the modern history of this country. Working as a member of the committee that wrote the Affordable Care Act, we got a provision in there which was for $12 billion, significantly expanding community health centers all over this country. I passed major environmental legislation which put billions of dollars into cities and towns to move towards sustainable energy. We have passed major bills to help dairy farmers all over this country. I have got a very strong record.
He also used a word that was almost exceedingly harsh in describing your pursuit of the transcripts of the speeches that Secretary Clinton gave on Wall Street. He called that pursuit McCarthyite.
Well, look, Barney is working very hard for Hillary Clinton. He'll say what he will say. But here is the issue, and the American people have got to reach their conclusions. Hillary Clinton not only has received some $15 million from Wall Street through her super PAC in the last campaign finance report, As everybody knows, she has given numerous speeches on Wall Street at $250,000 a speech behind closed doors. Now, what I think is fair to ask is, what are you saying behind closed doors that you're not saying out to the public? Secretary Clinton has said, well, she will release the transcripts if everybody else does. I will release my transcripts. I've never given a speech to Wall Street behind closed doors or any place else.
I also want to ask you about some news earlier this week. Donald Trump's remarks about abortion and theoretical for punishment for women should the procedure become illegal. Secretary Clinton suggested that you don't view abortion as a serious issue based on your response to it. She says that you referred to it as a distraction. I just want to play for you exactly what she said.
Senator Sanders agreed that Donald Trump's comments were shameful, but then he said they were a distraction from, and I quote, a serious discussion about the serious issues facing America. To me, this is a serious issue.
Politicizing where it need not occur? What's your response?
My response is that you're looking at somebody who in 25 years in the Congress has a 100% pro-choice voting record. I think a woman's right to choose is an enormously serious issue. What she was doing is taking me out of context. If you're going to ask me about another dumb, absurd, stupid remark made by Donald Trump, you know what? I cannot spend my entire life responding to every moronic statement made by Donald Trump. That was my point. But this, if elected president, not only will I vigorously defend a woman's right to choose, we're going to take on Republican governors today who are trying to restrict that right. That was the context of that remark.
It seems a big if, however, the delegate math at this point seems to be working against you. You have, though, raised a lot of money. You vowed to keep on fighting, even as Clinton's chief strategist, Joel Benenson, essentially said that that Clinton will be the clear nominee come April 26th. Is it news to you that your campaign apparently has 26 days left?
Well, needless to say, we don't quite agree. We started this campaign at 3% of the polls, 60 points behind Hillary Clinton. There was a poll last week that had us 1 point ahead. In national poll after national poll, we are defeating Donald Trump by significantly higher margins than is Hillary Clinton. We have won 6 out of the last 7 caucuses and primaries. We think we have a good chance to do well in Wisconsin if there's a large voter turnout. We're looking forward to New York State. So I don't want to disappoint Secretary Clinton's campaign staff. But we'll see you in June, and we'll get you good tickets to the inauguration.
It would essentially be then the will of individual voters when and if that came to pass. Pledges on the other side of the aisle have dominated the news in the last few days. Are you willing to support Hillary Clinton if she is the nominee?
Well, I'm sure that she is going to be willing. You're going to ask her that question, and we'll go forward together. But this is what I can say. I think the entire Democratic Party, no matter what your views are, understands that a Donald Trump would be an unmitigated disaster for the future of this country. So I have no doubt that the overwhelming majority of people, and not just Democrats, you got a lot of independents, and you got many Republicans who will say, we cannot have somebody like a Donald Trump as president.
Donald Trump has said that part of his appeal to the Republican Party should be the fact that he's bringing millions of new voters, disenfranchised voters, to these primaries. When you look at demographically your support, you do extraordinarily well with young voters. What do you think that appeal is?
Well, I think it's twofold. By the way, don't think that those are just people in their 20s. What we are winning are people 45 or 50 or younger, and that is the future of America. That is the future of the Democratic Party.
I always like to be thought of as young.
You are, hey!
Demographically, I will take that every time, Senator.
I think a couple of reasons. I think a lot of young people understand there is something wrong when the middle class continues to decline and almost all new income and wealth is going to the top 1%. I think young people especially respond to the ugliness of a corrupt campaign finance system where super PACs and billionaires are buying elections. Young people respond to institutional racism and a broken criminal justice system and to climate change. Look, they know that this planet will be in trouble in 40 or 50 years, and they want to protect their children and grandchildren from what climate change can do. They want to transform our energy system. So I think that's kind of why we're appealing to all the young people.
We've also seen the impact of a grassroots movement nationally. Again, we saw it yesterday at an event for Secretary Clinton that was briefly interrupted by what she called Bernie people. What do you make of?
Well, I thought you were going to say a grassroots movement of ours, which had 18,000 people out in the South Bronx. That's a pretty good meeting.
Very good, very good, especially with the weather that was bearing down on the tri-state area yesterday. I can hear it in your voice. I just wonder personally, what sort of personal toll at this point does the campaign take on you?
Well, it's hard. I think it's hard for any candidate. You go, in most cases, 7 days a week. You're used to running. In my life in Vermont, you run and it's an election day, and the day after the election, it's over. Here, there's literally an election day. In Iowa, we were on the plane, had a rally at 5 o'clock in the morning in New Hampshire. So you got a lot of states. We're working very hard. Look, I volunteered for this job. No one forced me to do it. I'm proud of the campaign we're running and the support we're receiving. We're in it to the end. And, we're trying to transform America, and that's what this campaign is about. And
yet your energy levels are the envy of those younger demographics of which you discuss. How do you relax and recharge?
Occasionally I watch a movie.
What was the last movie you watched?
We watched Brooklyn, ironically enough, about a young woman from Ireland who came over. We saw also The Big Short, which is a movie talks about the corruption of Wall Street, a lot of which I talk about, and I do a lot of reading, and that's it. But I won't deny this is 7 day a week job.
And I know you just told viewers on Facebook Motown is the preferred choice.
That was the first musical genre that I really responded to. The Supremes, the Temptations. When it
comes to music, it is always your first love. Before I let you go, I know, again, those demographics, certainly happy to see you on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert last night. Let's take a look.
Hey, there is a human being down here. What is going on?
Oh my God.
What are you doing to this worker?
Help me, Bernie.
All right, here you go. All right. How long does he be pushing you down here?
Days.
Days. What kind of operation are you running, Stephen?
It's called a talk show, Bernie. Would you like to spin the wheel?
I would love to spin the wheel.
Give it a yank.
All right, which way?
Any way you want. T-shirt cannon! There you go.
Other than being an excuse to hear you use the H as a consonant that begins a word, what was it like checking the bucket list item of millions upon millions of Americans pulling the trigger on a T-shirt cannon?
It's a very powerful little
It certainly is.
I hit the ceiling, actually. I have to do it again to get it to somebody.
There's a bit of a kick to it,
Yes.
for sure. Senator, we very much appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you very much.
You bet. And for much more on the presidential race, turning an eye to Wisconsin and here in New York, you can tune in to Face the Nation this Sunday. John Dickerson will interview Donald Trump, and he'll speak with RNC Chairman Reince Priebus. That, again, Sunday on CBS. And you can also stream Face the Nation right here on CBSN. Then, on Tuesday, as I mentioned, stick here with CBSN for full coverage of the all-important Wisconsin primary. We will be tracking all the action from the state throughout the day and, of course, have results for you here as they are made available.